Hello, everyone. Glad y'all are able to make it here tonight. Got a show we're going to be talking about Richard Allen and clothing and luminol. Uh, been doing a lot of research this week. Got a lot of good information for us. Also, a little housekeeping before we get started. Nightbot's still working, so all the mods out there don't have the prompts are being taken care of that. Um, have respect for each other in chat and towards the mods, and no names or initials of any individuals that uh, the courts and law enforcement hasn't issued search warrants for or arrest warrants. We will also um, be going after this show. I'll be a guest on Christian Behind the Crime Door. So if anyone wants to follow me over there after this show, just hang with me. And whenever we close out, we'll go over there. But anyway, if you want to, we'll get started. All right. As always, a little brief bio. This is Mrs. Steve, and I'm Steve. I'm a retired law enforcement, 20 years of service. Started off my career in the jail, worked road, went into investigations. During that 20 years, I had all different types of training from SWAT all the way into becoming a state certified crime scene technician, which helped my investigative career immensely. I've handled all different types of cases from thefts all the way into homicides. I retired, and after retiring, became aware of the true crime world and web sleuths, and decided to try to become the best ambassador for law enforcement that I could, so that we could have an impact and showing people in the web sleuth community how law enforcement thinks, and how we can together have a greater impact when the time is needed. All right. So let's get into it. Of course, we're having to. Richard Allen was charged with 2 counts of murder of and Libby and Abby, and so with those warrants having been served, both his arrest warrant, and then we have some other affidavits out there that we don't have access to or full information. We know there's a search warrant for his residence, and what all was collected, what did the return show was collected, and what information is contained within them will be huge. So we're looking forward to whenever that information comes out. With the current gag order, who knows? But if Richard Allen is found guilty of these crimes, of these murders, and he is a bridge guy, that's what we're going to be looking at tonight, especially. There's been some mentioning that from his residence, clothing items were seen being removed, carried out open-handed. Don't know if that's the case or if it was bagged. And what items were brought out. Was that just personal items of an investigator or not? We just don't know that. And those answers and those questions and answers will be addressed in court, I'm sure, to clarify that information. But we have done previous shows of where I went out and luminol, a lot of different things from an outdoor crime scene to the actual clothing. And since we had the information that one of the witnesses on the day of that the girls, Libby and Abby, came up missing, that a witness said that she saw someone walking down the road, dressed similar to Bridge Guy, that was bloody and muddy. And so if that is the case, and if he does have those clothing articles still at home all these years later, what are the possibilities that they would be able to process those clothing? If they have the actual clothing, of course, they will process them, but what could they find from those items? And so all the research I did this week was towards that goal of trying to figure out exactly how likely it would be able that if they did identify some type of blood within those clothing through certain presumptive tests, and how likely would they be able to get a DNA profile from it? And because, there's a lot of studies out there, and I read some that was very encouraging, and I got a lot of that information tonight from those studies that was focused on obtaining DNA from clothing articles that had been washed by offenders who were trying to clean the clothing, wash them, and separate themselves from the crime scene through the manner of just running them through wash cycles and washing machines. And so I found a study or two on that, and found it extremely interesting. And we're going to share some of that information with you. Luminol is simply a presumptive blood detection test that is used by forensic investigators to detect trace amounts of blood or to investigate suspicious stains. And if you've seen any of my other luminol testing of my crime scene that's out in the woods, and we're going to have some of those photos of what that looks like 3 months later, because I believe the first time I did the crime scene outside was in September, I believe, is the dates I have on here. And then, of course, I did some clothing test in October, and also addressed the outdoor crime scene again in October. So now we're looking at these items, 2 to 3 months later, and what type of reactions and presumptive testing and what those tests show. But the results for luminols on items that have been washed vary depending on the water temperature, but luminol performed better as a presumptive test than TMB or Blue Star Magnum. And there's a lot of different, I think I looked at what in some of my books of my training material, there's numerous tests out there, 11, 12. I mean, there's probably more than that, but of what we studied throughout my career. And some of them we used, some of them we didn't. And of course, luminol is one of the presumptive tests. And then I've got some other, I have 2 or 3 different types of tests that I have whenever I go out to work cold case. If I do have to test for a presumptive test, that you hit it with one, whatever those results are, then you hit them with the others. And when you have 2 or more that come back presumptive, then of course call 911 and say, we got a positive blood presumptive test here and we need some help. But the luminol is extremely sensitive, and probably of all of them, it's been around for a long time, from the 20s and 30s, and it's evolved. And Blue Star, I'm going to order some Blue Star also. It's, of course, a luminol based type of test, but it's a refined test that's a little bit different formula. And there's different types of Blue Star. Some of it is would degrade DNA, and of course you can't use that on crime scenes, but they do have a forensic type of Blue Star that doesn't degrade DNA, and you can most certainly use it on certain crime scenes. But one of the things that, as I was preparing for this, and as we've started doing our test, that as I applied this synthetic blood that I ordered through Searchy to clothing material and ran it through Mrs. Steve's washing machines, and
it still works.
It still works right now. But
but
as I was applying this synthetic blood and testing it, and then of course with the luminol presumptive test, everything on it proved that it's very similar to blood, reacts very similar to blood to luminol, and so it had a great baseline for me to commit my efforts towards and creating outdoor crime scenes and applying that synthetic blood in different types of patterns, from arterial spray to cast off patterns I did to the clothing and to the wooded area. And so, but one of the things in the study was how well DNA, because just because you have a presumptive blood test doesn't mean that the presumptive blood test means it's human blood. And there are other chemicals such as bleach and other elements out there that luminol will react to. And so But when it is blood, like I said, it doesn't mean that it's human DNA or human blood. And so your DNA profile that you would acquire from that blood stain after the presumptive test is the qualifier. And so I looked up and found the studies where they were talking about how successful DNA can be even after being washed through wash cycles. And there was a good study, and I looked at it and read it and found that certain temperatures, which the general setting for water heaters doesn't destroy DNA, and you're able to go out there and still get profiles. And the washing machine criteria of what they said is that the temperature of the water is extremely critical to the ability of gaining and recovering a DNA profile. And so with the studies, they went up to 60 degrees Celsius, which most of the American hot water heaters recommendations is anywhere from 120 to 140, which when you go out there and look, that is shown that DNA can be obtained from laundry wash fabrics up to 60 degrees Celsius with omission of hiding evidence after the incident or for any other reasons. And this is for criminals, that if they took their stained clothing and their mission is to destroy evidence, that the 60 degrees Celsius, which Daisy, Super Sticker 199, thank you for your support.
Thank you so much.
That 60 degrees Celsius equals what we are familiar with being 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and which is well within the limits of, 140 degrees is still extremely hot for a water heater, and recommendations are between 120 and 140. So you have to be careful on those. But as I was doing my research, I wanted to have as much information and go by what the study said. And most of the studies, or the study I relied upon heavily, was from 40 to 60 degrees Celsius, which is 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, give or take. But if you remember from the vehicle and my for the blood stains transfers that I did with my boots, I soaked the ground, stepped in it, and I also had a passive pool of blood that I stepped in and transferred them to a floor mat of one of Mrs. Steve's floor mats in one of the vehicles. Alana, Onliner, Super Sticker Tenant, thank you. Appreciate that support.
Thank you so much.
And that helps pay for
my new floor mat.
Her new floor mat. She needs a new floor mat. And but anyway, as I was doing that, I had alternative tests I was going to be running parallel with that content I created for this, because I still wear those boots, and I was going to see how long, and as we processed these seams over months later, to see how good the luminol held up in a working environment, such as on the boots, as you'll see, and on the clothing as we washed them. And so I had multiple tests that's been running now for 3 months on my shoes, on my clothing, the washing machine, so that we can address this, that if the luminol and if those clothing articles that were recovered from Richard Allen's house are the ones that he wore at that scene, what are the likelihood that they'll be able to find that blood stain with either luminol or other different types of presumptive test, and then be able to get a DNA profile? It's going to be huge if he has maintained those clothing articles and hasn't destroyed them, and not only his, but if he kept a article of clothing from Libby or Abby, and with the same thing of that DNA profile of one of them being at his house, is huge. And so there's a lot of different ways that the DNA profile will have an impact on this case if he's involved in this case. And so these are my boots. And as I was working yesterday and processing the crime scene, I was up there late into the night last night, kind of cool. Temperatures not as bad across the country here as it is across the country, but it's getting cold. Yeah, it's getting here. But these are the boots I was wearing, and these are the boots that were blood stained on top of the toes, and also the same boots that I stepped in that synthetic blood with. And so I've been wearing them, and for this testing results that you'll see as we go through with the presentation here, because all this is going to be critical. Law enforcement will recover every item that Richard Allen reported that he was wearing that day. If they can find it, they're going to process it. Same with his vehicle. Everything in that vehicle, whichever vehicles he owned at the time that he said he drove to the scene and then he drove back home, all those vehicles, all those articles, everything that he possibly could have took that day or touched that day, including his firearm, they'll take it apart and they'll check it for any shape, form, or fashion of being able to do presumptive blood tests and DNA findings that they can. But this is the boots. I took another picture of them, and then I luminoled them last night. And over on the right, you see two different blood patterns on two different boots. The left blood pattern of the illumination or luminescence that luminol brings up, which that's exactly what it does. It's luminescence of the reaction of luminol with the iron contained within the blood, and it fluoresces blue. And so while you can't see the boots in the total darkness, you can see that it lights up like a Christmas tree. And when you first, and you're using luminol on these articles of clothing, boots, shoes, shirts, it won't be this bright as far as to the naked eye. It's sometimes it's pretty close, but when you set up the camera and you set up those long exposures and open shutter speeds, and so that you can do it, and then you run it through your computer programs to brighten them and get this result, it's extremely interesting to see the process and work through the process. But this is what you see, that after wearing these boots for 3 months, for the synthetic blood still lights up just as much as it did back in September and October. And on the treads, on the soles of the boots, when I flipped the boots over, when I hit with luminol, it was very, very faint, hardly able to see it at all. And so I had to run it through the filtering system 2 or 3 more times. But you can see that deep within those treads of the shoe, up away from where I normally wear, or the wear patterns of walking on concrete, grass, gravel, that deep in those protected areas is what luminesced. And you can see that blue pattern, both the left and right boot. Like I said, when I first did the transfer patterns onto that floor mat for the car, I stepped in both a ground soaked area plus a passive pool of that synthetic blood. And here we are 3 months later after wearing them, and they're still, to the naked eye, of course, you can't see anything. But when you hit it with a luminol, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. And these are the pants, October the 13th, that I put the synthetic blood on. The picture on the right was after one wash cycle. And as you can see, after that one wash cycle, I luminoled it, and this is the pattern you saw on October the 13th. We've washed those pants time and again, all the way up, and actually until last night. Washed them again last night, right before I luminoled them last night. And this is what it looked like last night. The stain to the pants has gotten a little bit lighter, but the luminol itself is just as bright from the synthetic blood stain. And so, and this is after multiple wash cycles. So if Bridge Guy is Richard Allen, and Richard Allen still has those clothes, and according to the Ron Logan search affidavit, he would have exposed his clothing possibly to blood, and there would be some type of blood spatter. And of course, if they can find that on his clothing and hopefully get a DNA profile from one of the victims on his clothing, of course, that's all, it is open and shut. Then, of course, we did the shirt, and this is the shirt and the wash cycle, October the 13th, once wash cycle, and then luminol. And after washing it, you can hardly see the blood stain, but when you hit with luminol, it lights up, of course. And then this is the shirt. You can still see the stain on the inside of it relatively, well. From the outside, you can't even tell it's hardly had any type of stain, so I didn't include it. But when you hit it with luminol, once again, the Jennifer Rochelle, 99-cent super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, support. And so you can still see that it still lights up after multiple washings, and which is all good news for the forensics and the CSI, that there is a possibility that this will end in a results that will be something that they will be able to use in court and find justice for Libby and Abby. Then this is the crime scene. I had an outdoor crime scene. And this, ever since September 18th, 2022, I haven't touched the crime scene. I went up there October 12th and photographed it. If you go back to some other videos, you'll see the comparisons between the two. And then I went back last night once it got dark and addressed and went up there and processed the scene again with luminol. And this was the passive blood stain of tree on the left, as you can see. You can see what the luminol looked like on September 18th of this year, October the 1st of this year. And then you get to see what it looked like yesterday. It's degraded quite a bit, but you can still see that the passive blood stain, the blood flow created by gravity down through the bark system of this tree is still visible. And will it be that way in another 4 or 5 months? I don't know. We'll find out. I look forward to that because whenever I was going through training and stuff, like I said, we went out and we processed these scenes. We introduced the blood, then maybe wait a day or two and went back and processed. And then we were done. And I find it extremely interesting of how luminol, even in this outdoor crime scene that has been exposed to every storm that has come through, the heat, the wind, animals, the differences in temperature, the moisture of and what effects it had on the as the luminol has shows you that there is a degrading of luminescence. But when it gets to the point that I can't see it with the luminol, I'm gonna hit it with blue star, and that will tell me something about blue star. That if it will come in and increase that value. I just don't want to hit with another chemical, although it's luminol and blue star both share luminol as a base. I have other plans to see how these things progress and work out. It's just my hidden wannabe scientific curiosity drives me sometimes. And this is what the tree looked like on December the 19th, 2022. You can see that there is a clear, almost brownish stain line down that tree. And then, of course, you got where it's luminol. And then at the base of the another tree, I did a arterial spray so that if there was certain injuries that maybe that would be to some type of artery, and you have that spray in effect, you can see where September 18th, of course, it was brilliant, lit up. October 12th, it was brilliant, lit up. But now by December the 19th, it's not that bright. And so once again, once it fails to or almost you can't perceive it with luminol, I'm going to hit it with Blue Star and see if that might give me some incentive to be a fan of Blue Star. And as you can see, there is still on this tree here, my poor old tree indicator, my little tag there is about gone. I believe the birds and the squirrels are eating on it, but maybe deer, I don't know. But the stain bark there, is that reddish brown or? Mm-hmm. Okay, it just looks brown to me. I have a red-green deficiency. And then there was another area where I had a limb that you can see here in the center of where I made some slash marks and wiped the knife off on its side that had transfer stains September the 18th and October the 12th. And then last night when I was up there, almost all the transfer stains are gone off of this limb. But there's one clear slash mark that you can still see that the luminol reacted with, and which is something I was hoping to see. And once again, when this test, as we move forward and I come in with the Blue Star, I can't wait to see what the value of it is and if it will light up like luminol does. Luminol is extremely sensitive, and I don't believe Blue Star is as sensitive, but it is a brighter luminescence than luminol. But anyway, I appreciate everyone watching the presentation, and if you like the presentation, share, sub, and also if you have any information about Richard Allen, Bridge Guy, that law enforcement needs, prosecution needs, or the defense needs, contact the appropriate authorities, make sure they have it so that we can have justice for Libby and Abby. It's been a long time in coming, and we don't have any idea exactly where all the investigation is going, who all is involved, other than we know that we have Richard Allen involved from his affidavit for his arrest. And so with that being said, we got any questions?
You have a few.
Excellent.
Hold on one second. Let me get this. And then we'll get started.
All right.
Okay. And from Nancy. Hi, Steve. Do you know if there is more video evidence?
Everything that has been in the affidavits leads us to believe that. The FBI affidavit with the on Ron Logan said that. The affidavit for Richard Allen arrest warrant implied that also when they said that they have someone, Libby or Abby said gun. And so both of the affidavit are supported that there is more video and audio evidence. What and how detailed, don't know.
And Britt at heart, thanks, Steve. Forensic scientists want to be here. Love the test you do for us.
Thank you. And I'm, like I said, I'm a wannabe also. I enjoyed that process in CSI.
He did.
And it's, you're there at a tragedy. You're there at a homicide, and you're trying to find that golden egg so that you can bring something that will solve the case, put a bad guy in jail, and find justice for your victims. And but there's a lot of dedicated people out there that absolutely work hard on these cases and do this.
All right. And Nancy, Steve, would the luminol still work after all these years on any of the evidence?
There's a lot of different tests, and there's probably some other chemicals, and there are other chemicals out there. That luminol is just one easy to use that I was accustomed to and trained on. But there's a lot of other different types of tests out there that are very good testing. But yes, if they've been protected and they've been sealed, yes, luminol, actually the older blood is, the stronger the reaction.
And Molly, I should already know this, Does luminol and similar show other bodily fluids besides blood, or is there a different chemical that does that?
There's alternative lighting that does that. That's for other different body fluids. And the alternative lights, like I said, are alternative lighting will make those other fluids luminesce. And are there other chemicals that could? Probably, but luminol doesn't. Luminol works off the blood and iron.
And Brendan, what's the housing market like in Indiana? Was he considered to be upper class, being that he was a CVS chemist?
I don't know. I don't know what a CVS chemist does, and I don't know where his certification level puts him on that. I have no idea.
What if the perp used toilet bowl cleaner? Is the rumor.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting that out there.
Yeah. There's been some rumors about different types of cleaning, and it may arise from that from the FBI search warrant Ron Logan, that they were looking for certain things and they put it in there about cleaning agents, and so they put it in there for a reason, because I've never seen a search warrant before. Mother of Dragons, $4.99 super sticker. Thank you for your support.
Thank you so much.
And but yeah, they put it in there for a reason. You just don't throw information into an affidavit without some purpose. And so, what is that? I don't know.
Dave says that you just love to destroy Mrs. Steve's washing machines.
Yes. So far, I broke her knife.
He did. He broke a knife. How do you break a knife?
One knife. And,
yeah. One knife.
Yeah. But no, it is fascinating, and about all the tests that you can do. And like I said, I learned a lot over my career due to doing a lot of different type of testing.
All right. And Purdue RN said he was a pharmacy tech.
Yes.
Is that what you heard? Yeah. Okay.
And I didn't know on the schedule of employees at a pharmacy, is that how high of a classification is that? What type of testing by the state is required, and what does it mean? And what access do they have to certain drugs? I have no idea. Purdue RN does.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you're having fun out there in California.
She's not in California.
Oh, you back home? She back home?
All right.
Okay. Oh, John France, $5. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate your support. It means a lot to us. And we've got a lot of stuff that we can do with all y'all's support. Thank you.
Okay, so let me catch up.
Hope everybody's getting ready to have a great holiday here at Christmas. And we want to wish everybody Merry Christmas as we get closer.
All right. And Ray, I wonder if actual blood does the same.
Yes. And that was when I first ordered the synthetic blood. I was worried about that because all the training we had with luminol and the presumptive test that we used was done with animal blood, specifically horse blood. Yeah. And it was a health hazard. And so you had to be extremely careful and make sure you used good strategies as you create a certain blood spatter stains and cast off and things. And it was a mess. And I was wondering when I ordered the synthetic blood and I read the studies on it and seeing how close it was and viscosity and different patterns and how it reacted. And I'm very pleased with it. Everything that of my old photography of luminol back in the day versus this is very similar. So I'm happy with it.
Good. And Violet, Steve, you are increasing my hope of finding actual evidence this late in the game.
Oh, yes. And there's other evidence, and other DNA. I think Kristen tonight's going to be covering about the cat DNA, and which I'm looking at that and looking forward to that information, because the animal DNA that was mentioned in the FBI search warrant Logan's, and also when they seized animals from the Kleins, there was always that one common factor that they're looking for animal DNA.
All right. I got to catch up one more time.
All right.
All right. And Ray, would Luminol be able to trace the steps those boots took after the blood is gone to the naked eye?
Yes, there's the blood stain will be there a certain distance. It's just whenever you start running out of, like, I did a test of stepping into the blood and seeing how far I could walk and still see a transfer from my shoe print to that, because every time you take a step, wherever blood's there is instantly transferred to the surface, and as you take another step, whatever's around the edges that might get there, and it wears off, and so the further you get away from the original source of the blood, is the less type of transfer you'll have. You wouldn't be able to go a long distance, but you could see the direction, which in the Idaho 4 murders, they will probably be able to tell a lot from those shoe prints if there's any type of pool blood, passive blood that the offender stepped in with the Idaho 4.
All right. And
But not only that, though, if you have some type of active flow, such as the offender has cut themselves, and a continuous flow, which is a different blood pattern that you can find. But once you find that sustained blood flow from an offender, you can track them a long way.
And Molly, it's amazing how much shows up with Luminol when you can't see it with the naked eye.
Yes, some of these filter systems, as I ran it through the computer, I was actually on the boot here, which was my hardest one to process. I think this is stage 5 of filtering and increasing the contrast to get it to this level. Normally, by the first or second contrast, you see a brilliant glow. But this one here, I think, took 5 on this. And the tree also, I believe, now this boot, which one? This boot, that was first or second. It lit up. I mean, there's no doubt it, because there's no wear pattern on it. But on his jeans, it lit up extremely well. But on the wear patterns, on the bottom of the boots, it was extremely difficult. Pants lit up extremely well.
Okay.
And so all we got to know is that now, does that mean that just because he washed the clothes, that all his clothing will have their DNA? And even if they can identify the stains, doesn't mean that this study said that every time you're going to get DNA profile. Just because that if he does have something that does have a blood stain on it, doesn't mean that it's absolutely guaranteed. The study showed that, yes, you can, but there's always variables. What type of chemicals did he use and were used, and how often were they washed? Because I only washed these a few times. It's not like I washed them every day. So the wash cycles may have an effect on it, on the DNA profile. The study, they'd washed them multiple times, and there was and actually, let's see here. I've got it here. Let me get in here to the wording. And it just says that DNA can be obtained from laundry wash fabrics up to 60 degrees, 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And so it can be done once, at least, sometimes. And there's no guarantees, but at least it's a shot.
You ready for me?
Mhm.
All right. Let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna have to.
Uh-oh.
I gotta talk to you about something.
Okay.
Remind me.
Okay.
Afterwards, it's probably a little far gone at this point. Okay. 840 and plan. She started it. Okay. All right, CJK. Hopefully, there is a lot of physical evidence to prove he was there with the girls and murdered them. Need a conviction.
Absolutely. And we have the bullet to start with that we know. And what else we don't know.
Right. All right. And Ray, did RA cycle the round out of the chamber afterwards to make it safer to carry home? And why would he leave the round there?
You know, there are some people that they refuse to carry a gun with a round in the chamber. Law enforcement, we carried one chamber. But there are certain people out there that don't. Was he of that personality that if that is his gun and he is the one responsible for these murders? And how did that round get cycled through that gun? Was it during a struggle? Was it during him making it safe to come home and he just lost a bullet or he dropped a bullet? Don't know. That had been cycled through that gun. And hopefully that'll be answered.
And MK, is there evidence of blood? I just got here.
As far as the case, we don't know. We know what was implied in the Ron Logan search warrant that the FBI obtained, that they believe that the offender would have a transfer of blood on them, on his clothing. And then we have a description of a witness day of that says they saw someone that was muddied and bloodied walking in the direction of where Richard Allen said that he had parked his car. And so from those, supporting evidence, then there's that possibility.
All right. And Cynthia, does he still have those boots after 5.5 years?
I don't know. That's another thing. He says that he knew what he was wearing that day from his October interview of 2022. And you can have more than one pair of boots, of course. You can have more than one pair of jeans, jacket of the same brand. And are those the items that he turned over? We don't know. They'll test them. And if they find that information, it will be in the part of the discovery that they'll turn over to the defense whenever it gets to court and it reaches that those hearings. And then I don't know if they'll share that information with us, the public at large, but we'll find out. Somebody need kicked. Kick them.
No, I can't.
No.
You're going to do it. Very frustrating. And they know better. Okay. And Molly, how much would rain over a long period of time, say a few months, impact blood showing up on a tree with luminol? Can it detect old blood in dug up dirt?
I've got the leaves that's over the part of the crime scene up there. So I'll go back and remove those leaves and see what's underneath. That would be part of my future test on certain things. But as you can see, from September, October to December, this is what the rain and the just daily from day to day, how it has degraded the signature of the blood on these trees. You still see the stain in daylight, but the luminol at night, it has degraded over from September, October, and December.
Okay. Okay. And this will do nicely. What about under the log? Would it be more protected?
I haven't turned that log over that where the knife. When I did the transfers and did the slide, I didn't introduce a lot of blood to it. But yes, it would be protected, and actually, that'd be a good test for the
That
future.
would be a good test.
So,
And John Moore, gun safety. Steve, one in the chamber or not under standard conditions? Thoughts?
I've always carried. I mean, law enforcement, we carry them, and that's just due to training. But each to their own. I'm not here to say or tell anyone which ways is not better than others. But as a law enforcement officer, we always carry them, and I've never carried one that didn't have one in the chamber. That's just my personal preference. It's um, my whole life. My father, I'm a second generation law enforcement officer. Father was the same way. Ever how many bullets you could get in the gun, we got into the gun.
Oh, yeah. And Molly, isn't toilet bowl cleaner basically bleach? I've never checked the ingredients.
I don't know. I think it has some of them has lye in it also, and which is
And toilet bowl cleaner?
I believe some of them are based because they use them for making certain types of drugs. Yeah.
All right. And Ann, I think there needs to be a probable cause affidavit for a search warrant. It seems to be clamoring ACA for the RA property search. Thoughts?
Yes, that's what I was talking about. I'm really interested in what would that probable cause affidavit, and why haven't there been a release of that information? And I'm looking forward to it. Or is that something that the court chose to keep sealed?
Okay. And Purdue RN, pharmacy techs pass basic test. They fill prescriptions and then pharmacist checks each one to sign off on each one. Was told RA took and passed test as assistant shift manager in case he had to fill in for tech.
All right.
Ah.
I didn't know what they did. It makes sense, though. Thank
It
you.
does make sense.
Thank you. I knew you knew.
Yep. And Purdue RN need to plan a trip to the new bridge remodel.
Yes. Actually, hopefully I'll be
In
up
the
there.
spring.
Well, I've got a trip planned for January if weather permits, and if so, I'll stop by.
I probably won't be there in January.
Well, you cannot get to Iowa unless you go past Purdue RN.
Well, that's true. I can't get anywhere unless I go past there. All right. And Dave, I am assuming that RA had access to lots of customers' personal information.
And that will
Be scary.
Yep.
Yowza. And Todd, are there any chemicals that can eliminate traces of blood?
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of them. I don't know all of them, but I would imagine there's quite a few.
Purdue RN only need 1 drop of blood from victims, right?
I don't even know if it take 1 drop. It's whatever you can get a profile of DNA from. And so that's what we're hoping for.
Wow. And Kimberly, what if RA had his clothes dry cleaned? What is the difference of the temp and cleaning agents, and would that destroy any possible DNA findings?
From my study, they said at 90 degrees Celsius, which are almost, I think that's like 190 degrees Fahrenheit, that at that time, DNA is jeopardized. I don't know how hot dry cleaning process is or the chemicals involved. I'll look that up on that study, and I'll know a lot about dry cleaning.
Yeah, you would. CN red flags thought the same thing I did. You can make drugs with toilet bowl cleaner. Crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Kind of disgusting, but crazy. Okay, let's see here. All right, I'm trying to do a little catch-up work here. You know, another good test. Remember when you used to come home bloody, and I would use hairspray to
Yes.
get your blood out? I wonder if luminol could get the residual from that. Do you know?
Oh no, we'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dave is on coffee number 3. We're not even counting my coffee today. So, you know, let's see here. Okay.
What we got going on?
I'm just catching up. Okay. And Kathleen, luminol tests are incredible. Thanks.
Thank you. I enjoy doing them. And it's, you know, like I said, it's all luminol has led to a lot of discoveries over the years to different types of crime scenes inside and out. And it's hard to beat as far as presumptive tests.
And if the accused didn't burn his clothes and maybe replace them with some brands so as not to alert his wife, then he's really dumb. And that's a good thing for the investigation, in my opinion.
You are correct.
I think I said that same thing.
Yep, you're correct.
Yeah.
She has a lot of history with cleaning clothes.
I sure do.
Because I came home a few times.
Mm-hmm. Todd, are you shocked that in his October 2022 interview, R.A. told L.E. that he was wearing a blue jacket, blue jeans, and a face covering and hat?
Great observation, Todd. And yes, I was. And I'll be covering that in a show very shortly. About I'll be looking at
Can't Fix Stupid.
Can't fix. But yes, that does create certain issues for his defense team.
All right. And Nancy, Steve, is L.E. still looking or asking for evidence?
Oh, yes. They'll all the way till the day that the jury comes back with a verdict, be looking for evidence, not only associated with this crime, but other crimes also.
All right. And verbal judo.
Verbal.
Does luminol and other forensic testing chemicals ever compromise or weaken that blood evidence regarding possible retesting it?
Certain times and certain, yes, you have to be very, very careful that you don't jeopardize anything. And even with Blue Star, which was originally designed to help hunters locate animals, but they refined it, whereas it can be used in human forensics. But yes, certain types of testing can harm, and you have to be very careful as you do this, and always have a backup that you don't destroy everything. Just don't put all your eggs in one basket.
All right, and that was it. I'm just scanning.
Okay. As I said earlier, after this show tonight, I'm going to be going over and on Kristen Behind the Crime Door, and she's going to be talking about the cat DNA. And I haven't looked at a lot of that, but I know about some cases that have been successfully prosecuted due to animal hair. Even the Atlanta child murders, his dog played a part, and also the fibers from his vehicle and home. And it was at that time groundbreaking evidence, being first time being used in court in that manner. But and so if y'all want to join me over there in a few minutes, I'd appreciate it. And if I haven't had or didn't answer all your questions over here tonight, follow me over there and we'll get to them.
I need some likes.
We need likes.
I need likes.
Okay.
267 and only 113.
Okay. Well, Gotta
You
make
know,
Mrs. Steve happy.
That's right. That's right. Give me some likes. Give me some likes. And Roxana, my thoughts and prayers are with you. She typed in chat that her mother is having some health issues.
Oh, yes.
Looks like she was on life support. So right here at Christmas, it's always that way.
Thoughts and prayers.
Thank y'all so very much. We love y'all, and be safe
And how
from this crazy weather we got going.
take care of your animals too.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, don't even get me started on that one. And Molly says, will you be on Thursday night?
Thursday night. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. We'll do something Thursday night.
Be on Thursday night, but will not be on Saturday night.
No, we're going to let everybody enjoy their Christmas time with their families. And y'all do spend a lot of time and think about other families that have lost loved ones and everything. And let's try to have an impact on everything that we do during the holiday season, help those that need help. And we most certainly appreciate everyone that's here tonight. And like I said, share, subscribe, and be kind to one another. And follow me over to Kristen, and I'll see y'all in just a little bit. Y'all have a great night, guys.
Love y'all.